Hi everybody, welcome to our snow day. I thought I would make up a couple of little videos that would cover tonight's lecture, which will be on our test next week. So be sure to print out the handout that I emailed you. There are two of them, and follow along. I thought it would probably be easier than just trying to read it and figure it out to actually listen to me explain it to you, because some of the stuff on dance is a little tricky. Um, and I'd like to explain it. So we're going to start out with the guidelines for safety and guidance during movement activities with young children. Looks kind of like this. So get that out, follow along, highlight, underline. I just do want to talk about this part of the lecture is going to be talking about safety. How do we control a classroom of kids running all around? You'll find the research shows that teachers are least comfortable with creative movement as a curriculum area. Actually, it's dead last on comfort levels because we lose control. Kids are running all around. How do you get them under control by doing this? So looking down this list here, you'll see several things that we'll talk about to keep the classroom safe when you do creative movement. First is when. The time of day is very important that you choose. Free play is always good, group time's good, outdoor play is always good. You want to try to avoid doing it right after a meal because you'll be sorry. You start shaking them up, they'll throw it up, unfortunately. And you also don't want to do it right before a nap. Some people think that, oh, I'll get them all tired out. Yeah, it doesn't work that way at all. You won't get them tired out at all. You'll get them riled up and then they'll never go down for a nap. So you don't want to do it during that time. You might want to also think about doing it maybe after nap to wake them up. So that's the when. Another thing to consider is where you should be doing it. You want to have a big open space, just like my big classroom space in Higbee 108. A big open area is absolutely ideal. But if you don't have that, you want to get rid of the distractions in the room, move things around. Back in the day when I had my music studio, I used to do this toddler play program every morning. It was filled with all kinds of toddler equipment, climbers and a ball pit, and I had about 6 or 7 little sliding boards, all this kind of stuff. And then in the afternoons, I would do kinder music with the 4 and 5-year-olds. Well, those parents were paying for an hour of creative movement and music class. They were not playing for kids to play on sliding boards and ball pits and things. So every day at lunchtime, I would literally take the room down, shove everything into the side of the classroom, and cover everything up with the parachute to keep them out of there. And still, they're trying to climb up underneath the climber. They're getting into all kinds of trouble. So finally, out of desperation, I took good old masking tape and I taped it all along the floor around where all of the equipment had been pushed to the side. And I just said, that's it. You can't cross that line. All those things will fall on your head and squish you. And that was it. They never crossed the line ever after that. Simple little things. Masking tape worked like a charm. But then I kept them out of that and I had my big open space for my creative movement activities. So a really good space, uncluttered, free of distraction, good ventilation, good lighting, windows to open. Little kids get sweaty too. Um, Recommended resilient floors. That means that they're looking for hardwood floors like in dance studios or gymnasium to avoid shin splints, but we have to go with what we have. I've rarely, if ever, just really one place I can think of where I actually saw a hardwood floor that wasn't a gymnasium. And if the room is too big, break it up. I've been in some places where there's these huge, gigantic, almost like there was this one big church. It was sort of their great big hall. It was probably double the size of a gymnasium. And the kids were just running wild. They had to break the room down. They actually got those little orange cones. You want to buy them, not steal them off the road crews, but get your own orange cones you can get from the school supply catalogs to break it up, or scarves or tape, anything like that, where you can say, stay behind the blue line, and then you've limited how far they can run around. So where you do your creative movement also will control things. And then the next is also more indirect guidance of preparation of the teacher. How we are prepared will also help control the behavior of the children. So make sure all your materials are ready. If you have an old cassette tape, make sure it's queued up to the song so you're not sitting there hunting for it. Have your CD out and in the player so you don't have to get that all out. Have everything ready to go. Kids are not sitting around waiting for you to do things. Always have a signal that means stop. I would do this immediately. The first day I had kids come in, I would do what I called the freeze game, where we'd be dancing all around, and then the music stops, and they all have to freeze into a monster or something. I used to take my piano and just kind of go down the keys. That meant something. You could have a triangle or a drum or any kind of a symbol. It means stop, and make it a game. And then the more they do it, the more it just becomes automatic. Also have a place where you can meet after you've done all of your creative movement. How can you bring them back together? I literally took my good old masking tape and put an X on the carpet up on the front of the room. And so they'd all be dancing around. The first couple of weeks, we'd make a little race to get back to the tape. And then after, a couple of weeks of that, it was just automatic. When the song is done, you meet at the tape. And then we might do something quiet like a little finger play or a little song or, something to keep them, calm them down from their crazy running around. So have that. And then the last thing for the R prep is to have rules. You need to establish rules from the very first day. And my recommendation is to include the children in your rule making, rather it coming from us like the big dictator, handing down these rules. Kids respect rules more when they come from themselves, and you can guide it. I used to have great big chart paper I would put up, and I'd have them all together and say, all right, everybody, we're going to be dancing today, and we're going to be all running around. We want to make sure everybody is safe. What do you think we should make as our rules to make sure everybody's safe? And I remember this one little girl raised her hand and said, I don't want anybody to kick me. It's like, okay, and I'd write it down. Emily doesn't want anybody to kick her, and I would just write them all down, and then we could guide them into actual rules and say, all right, so that means we're going to keep our hands and feet to ourselves. We're going to be careful. We're going to walk and not run. And just the kids respect it because it came from their suggestions. So try that when you're working with your children on coming up with that preparation. And then preparation for the children as you read these creative movement textbooks. Professional dancers want bare feet, but in our situation, we really can't have children running around in bare feet unless you know for certain that there is nothing on that floor that's going to hurt a child. So we cannot have bare feet. Even in the regs, children need to keep their shoes and socks on in case there's an emergency. Just imagine in the snow, if there was a fire drill, trying to get shoes on all these little guys, impossible. So we can't really do that, but we do need shoes and socks on. And then to suggest loose, comfortable clothing for the children to be able to move around freely. And then some last tips for behavior management. Encourage complete freedom of movement. Try not to demonstrate, as they will copy you, and then you're going to be stifling their creativity. This is when we talk about what we call imagery. If I give the child an image like, say, everybody be a tree, and I go like this, well, in 10 seconds, I'm going to have 20 little trees that look just like this, and I don't want them to look just like me. So I'll put my hands behind my back and I'll say, okay, everybody, show me what you think a tree looks like. And in those first couple of seconds, you'll see the true creativity of the child. You'll see a tree like this, and all these crazy looking trees. And then they'll look at each other and you'll see them kind of go, and next thing you know, you have 20 identical trees again. So your job is to go around and say, okay, you, look at this tree. Its arms are way up high. Isn't that great? Or look at this tree. Its arms are way out wide. Isn't that great? They're different. And then the kids are like, oh, she wants me to be different. Oh, point out differences. Different is good, because little kids will try to conform right from the beginning. And even if we don't want them to conform, they will. So point out differences. Differences are good. Recognize the inner control. Sort of pat them on the back when they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. Always give perfectly clear direction so no one gets hurt. And we'll talk about that next week when we do the actual dancing again. Don't have them sitting around, getting them moving around right away. Keep it fun, rewarding. They use up tons of energy, so I kind of always did crazy running around, quiet, crazy, quiet. All they need is a little song or a finger play, to keep them, get their energy back. Emphasize satisfaction rather than a standard of performance. We're not putting them on the stage at the Palace Theater. Keep it simple. And then be careful about negative feedback. You don't want to get caught into that attention grabbing thing that some children tend to do. I had this little guy, William, who was in one of my classes one time, and William's reaction to anything I did was always very negative. Very first day of class, I said, "Okay, everybody, we're going to go out. We're going to be stompy monsters." William's immediate response to that was, "I'm not going to do that. You can't make me." William wanted a fight. He wanted me to go over there and grab him and say, "Yes, you are. Get out here, damn it. You're gonna go be dancing with all of us." Um, but I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna get pulled into that fight with this child. So I said, "All right, we're gonna go dance. We'll see ya." And off we went doing our little stompy monster dance. Well, within about 10 seconds, William was out doing the stompy monsters with us, and that's when William gets my attention. Then I went up to him, "Wow, look at you. You're a really scary monster, aren't you?" He's like, "Yeah, I didn't go back to the grumpy part. I went right for, you're doing a good job. That's when you get my attention. I'm not going to get sucked into that." So be careful. It's very easy to get pulled into what we call negative attention, where some children will act up just to get attention, even if it's not a good thing, even if they're getting yelled at or whatever. And it's very easy to get sucked into that. So instead, really try to catch them when they're being good. That works better. Make sure you have all the adults available, sitting in and acting out with the kids. Spread them around. The more adults of there, the less problems you're going to have. Don't worry if it doesn't help, it doesn't go well. Don't panic. Just make it into something fun. And make sure that you have plans for indoors and outdoors. I had this one student teacher one time in a first grade class. She had her lesson plans all ready to go. They were going to do parachute outside. Well, came the day and it was pouring buckets of rain. And she wanted to go use the gym. The PE teacher said, "No, I need the gym. You're not going to be able to do it." She comes back to her cooperating teacher and says, "Oh, I'm really sorry I can't do my lesson." And the cooperating teacher said, "Well, I'm really sorry, but that's your 20 minutes." And that girl had to wing it for 20 minutes with no plan. I'll tell you, that probably felt like hours to her. It was a lesson learned. Always have a backup plan if you are going to do anything outside. So always have that backup plan and you'll be fine. And then make sure you look through all the resources that you can find. Poems. I have a great book of poems that I used to use where you just read it and the children act out the movements. And of course, next week we'll be looking at CDs. There are lots and lots of great CDs that you just put it on. Greg and Steve is one of the groups that have wonderful movement activities. All you got to do is push play, and it tells the kids what to do. So there's all kinds of resources out there as well. So I'm going to stop this one now because we're at about 13 minutes, and I will be coming up with a second video which will talk about how do we actually teach dance to children. What are the 5 stages of dance that you definitely need to know. So come back, watch that one, and we'll move on and finish this lecture. See you later.